Today marks the second day of war after Russia invaded Ukraine, the largest war in Europe since World War II. More than 130 Ukrainians have been killed so far and hundreds more injured. The death toll is expected to continue to rise.
In an early morning address, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky ordering a military operation. Ukraine has also reported losing control of the Chernobyl nuclear plant. The White House says they're outraged about reports of staff being held hostage. It comes after President Biden announced more sanctions against Russian banks and restrictions on exports.
Putin is the aggressor. Putin chose this war, and now he and his country will bear the consequences.
7,000 U.S. troops are being sent to Germany. Martial law has been declared in Ukraine, and there's now an overnight curfew.
Now, we realize that the Russian invasion of Ukraine and what Ukraine is now calling a full-scale war can be a little confusing.
So tonight we want to break down the history between the two countries.
Now, if you look here, you'll see Ukraine and Russia are right next to one another. President Putin has said in a recent essay he believes Ukraine and Russia as inseparable and, quote, one people, a single whole.
And this is what it was before. Ukraine was a part of the Soviet Union, which is in this gray area here. That was before its collapse at the end of the Cold War in 1991. Russia was the most powerful of the more than 15 states making up the country.
Now, experts and even President Biden says Putin has hopes of restoring the Soviet Union by expanding his control over neighboring countries, including Ukraine.
The Ukrainian government says they're against this, so Ukrainian and Russian tensions have reached a boiling point, and the current invasion is just the latest in a series of events.
Now, back in 2014, Russia invaded and took control of a part of southern Ukraine called Crimea after Ukraine ousted its former pro-Russian president.
Some Ukrainians, especially those living closer to the Russian-Ukrainian border, are still Russian sympathizers, especially those in two self-declared republics. These two regions left Ukrainian control in 2014 when Russia invaded Crimea.
So why the invasion? Putin said in a recent speech he wants to defend these Russian sympathizers in Ukraine. But political experts say this is only a ploy by the Russian government.
And the real tension lies in the fact that Ukraine has hopes of joining NATO, which is a military alliance the U.S. and most of Western Europe is a part of.
Now, President Putin says there is a direct threat to Russia, and he's even asked the U.S. and NATO for assurances that Ukraine will never be allowed to join NATO.
This demand by Putin was rejected by the U.S. and its allies. Now President Putin is beginning his expansion.
What does this mean for the U.S. and will we go to war because of Ukraine?
Experts say the likely answer is no. Ukraine is not a member of NATO and is only a diplomatic partner for now. The White House says members of NATO or our closest allies are beefing up their defenses near Ukraine and Russia.
And President Biden says American troops are on standby should Putin continue expanding to neighboring countries that are part of NATO. And for now, Biden says the U.S., the European Union, and other Western allies are only attacking Russian finances, hitting them with heavy sanctions.
Now, these are measures taken against Russian banks and other major companies, making it difficult for Russia to operate. Other repercussions we could see: lawmakers anticipate possible cyber attacks on critical infrastructure, and experts say prices for crude oil are expected to rise in the coming weeks.